This week, we're going to be looking at how to accelerate your growth by onboarding with confidence. It's great to have you here with us today.
Perfect. So as a quick agenda, what we're going to run through today falls into four main categories. The first is the big hurt, which will be the problems that the SMEs are facing currently.
Absolutely.
Second will be the big questions. So these are the questions that SMEs are asking themselves, and we ourselves are asking our clients, and clients are asking of us. Third is our approach. So our approach to how we solve those big questions and that big hurt for SMEs. And finally, we're actually going to look at a really interesting case study today.
I am excited about this one today. It's a good one.
About that and all of this. As we mentioned, all of this is going to focus on onboarding journeys and how to create a seamless onboarding journey for customer growth.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So the first bit we're going to dive into is the big hurt. And this is really where SMEs struggle. And so there's a number of ways that the SMEs do struggle in the current economy and understanding where to go. And the first one of those is definitely understanding the true nature of a business.
Yeah, and it's funny that we're describing this as where SMEs struggle because, I know we're focused more on SMEs, but at the same time, this is where everyone struggles, is understanding the true nature of really any business, but more so SMEs. But, if you think about an SME, you don't have as much capacity for whether it's positions in terms of, okay, you're dedicated solely to the onboarding, I'm dedicated solely to the risk management. It's a case of everyone's kind of wearing multiple hats, which means, okay, I've got to be able to understand the true nature of a business and other issues and risk factors that might go along with that. So it's definitely a pain that a lot of SMEs struggle with because quite a few of them might not even have this kind of process or protocol in place.
Yeah, and I think it feeds back as well to the very nature of the SME economy. As you said, there's people wearing multiple hats, but the SME economy is so fast moving.
Yeah.
So if you imagine and think about the technologies that were around 10 years ago that are now obsolete, no one uses, and the sort of technology we'll have in 10 years and the sort of companies that will be around providing those sort of services means that really understanding what a business does and understanding the people within those businesses is becoming a harder and harder task.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, things evolve so quickly that you might be in one company as a director and a significant person of interest, but then all of a sudden the next day you might have put your hand into a new business that's completely different. But obviously because there's that connection, can you understand the true nature of not just that business, but really that relationship and things to be aware of?
Yeah, and I think this then leads to the second problem, which is a really poor customer experience during onboarding. So I think it's something that in our personal lives, with the advent of challenger banks and different companies, if you can't buy something instantly, you almost back out of the purchase. It becomes frustrating if it's not done in a click. Things like Apple Pay have changed the way that the consumers experience the economy and purchase things, and businesses and B2B businesses are starting to catch up. And certainly they're facing that experience where customers expect the level of service and the speed that they're provided with in their consumer lives, in their business lives as well.
Absolutely, and it's not off topic, but a case of we're Generation Z or something where everyone says, oh, you and millennials want that instant satisfaction. Well, the reality is, our generation is now becoming into positions of power and decision making, and if that is the case where we're running the businesses, and you're saying, okay, we want instant satisfaction, well, that applies to the customer life cycle. And that applies to the onboarding journey where we don't want to have to wait, or companies don't want to have to sit there and give you tons of paperwork. It's, okay, I want to fill in a couple of things and I want to have a result.
Yeah, I think it really feeds back to your first point as well about multiple hats. If you're a small business and you're trying to open a bank account, for example, you want to do this quickly. You've got 4 or 5 other tasks to get on with that day. You don't want to spend 2 days filling out forms and slowing down the process. And that's that third problem then, that lengthy onboarding time. If you're a small, dynamic business, you want to be set up at selling and starting to run your business as quickly as possible. Having a lengthy onboarding time just simply isn't something that a small, agile business wants to experience.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable where you think in today's age, especially larger companies, granted SMEs are blessed with the fact that they're smaller, they should be more agile, they might not have processes in place, so they can mold that onboarding journey, I can't talk, it's the end of the week, onboarding journey to fit demand versus if you look at, you know, larger legacy institutions, they have to go through a lot of change and it takes a slow amount of time to get there. So at least with SMEs, it's a case of, we know we have a problem, let's address it, let's fix it now. But what's out there to help us with that?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And this feeds into the other thing as well, is that you can get all of these things sorted and have a seamless onboarding experience and have it, you know, really down to a T. And a really good example I like is that one of the major high street banks, I won't name them to save their embarrassment, launched a mobile app similar to, you know, the challenger banks that are out there. And actually in the first week, they had 90,000 fraudulent applications trying to access a bank account with them. So it means that if you've got this seamless customer experience that's really great and really quick, if you can also satisfy the regulator and uncover hidden risks, which is something that SMEs really struggle with and businesses struggle with in general, then your slick, you know, really quick onboarding process is never going to stand up to the test of time as well.
Yeah, it's just opening the floodgates to fraud and all kinds of risks. And it's a case of, you know, I mentioned earlier where you put your hand into a new venture or business, so whatever you're going to do, it's, you have to understand all those connections. And, you know, in today's age, things move so quickly. People develop new relationships, they gain significant control of another business perhaps. You have to understand all those relationships, and the dynamics of these relationships are constantly changing. You have to be very aware. You can't just say, well, I do business with company A and that's all I'm going to worry about. It's, I have to worry about company A who has a relationship with company B because it might be a portfolio company, or it's a parent company to a second degree level, or they might be related because they have two directors on the same boards. It's, you have to cover off all potential threats at this point.
Yeah, and I think finally, you know, it's assessing that financial viability of potential clients as well. So as you mentioned, when we look at all those relationships, we can really start to understand, you know, is there financial backing here? Is there previous business dealings that are in financial poor health? Have they experienced CCJs, late payment invoices, that sort of factors? That's something that really you need to be able to assess on onboarding. So you can assess them for risk, but also for a sales team. You know, it's great if you can write leads correctly, and if your sales team know who they want to prioritize and who they want to work with. That's definitely something that's important. And I think that then led us to looking at those big questions, which Pam was going to sort of take us through now.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things, you know, when we're speaking to clients and people just coming to us is, you know, can you quickly map out all those potential threats and risks to you? I mean, it's, you know, there are a lot of solutions out there that are available, and whether it's Doodle or anyone else, you know, one, we're going to applaud you for making use of that, because the amount of people that we do talk to can't even begin to pinpoint all these different potential risks. I mean, what have you seen kind of in your experience?
Yeah, I think it's understanding that total structure. So really being aware of all possible risks and all possible possibilities, and just having a real clear understanding of what's going on. And that's definitely something that people are asking themselves, is that do they know their clients well enough?
Yeah.
Are they onboarding clients with all the knowledge they need? Are they being, you know, in some way, is there a backdoor into their current process?
Yeah, and you mentioned knowing your clients, and knowing your clients is also, you know, what's the financial stability of them? So one of the questions we have on here is, you know, are you able to assess the financial health of a potential client in seconds? And it's a case of, you can have a slick onboarding process, but if you're onboarding people that aren't financially stable or viable, well, you've probably got a flawed business model, because unless that's exactly who you want, which it probably isn't, because if they're paying for a product, you want to make sure they can pay. You need to be able to do that very quickly, but at the same time, I would say in a way that's not intrusive, where, oh, I just signed up for this, they're asking for all kinds of financial information. I mean, to me, that would be quite off-putting.
Yeah, and I think that's that third point, then that third question in the top right of the slide is, are you providing a seamless customer experience? You want to get all this information that you need to onboard successfully, while allowing your clients to get signed up and access your product or services as quickly as possible. And that's what makes a seamless customer journey, is that you've got everything you need and your customer has to give as little effort as possible to get it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, that leads right into the final question that we've got listed out is, you know, how do you reduce onboarding drop-off rates? And, you know, if you have a good customer experience, that's not really intrusive, but you're able to pull out all the information that you need. I mean, that's going to minimize the drop-off rates. I mean, I don't think you're eliminate them completely ever just because they either on the wrong page or whatever it might be. I know we experienced that probably. Oh, I don't really want to sign up for Netflix. I've got Prime. But it's a case of, can you reduce that drop-off rate? And I think the things that we kind of talked about and alluded to already build into that end goal.
Yeah, definitely. And all those big questions really have led us towards our approach. And as you can see, there's 4 steps that we take in this approach. Now, the first one is you need to access all your information, but you need to get this from one source of truth.
Yeah.
If you're looking to build that seamless experience and have all the information you need to onboard, then it needs to come from one trusted source that's easy to work with. It's no good trying to plug in 5 or 6 different sources where you're unsure of the validity. They all work on different systems in one unified figure. That's just something that's not going to be advantageous and not going to produce a seamless customer experience for your client.
Yeah, and it's hard to not give away too much because of the next section that we're going to, because you mentioned the single source of truth and using multiple data sets. But I think people sometimes struggle to realize the importance of having everything in one spot, but not necessarily limiting yourself to one source. I think hopefully that's vague enough not to give away what we're getting to down the line here, but I think that's a very big issue that people sometimes struggle with, where, oh, I've got my one platform, that's enough. It's, well, are you covering everything off? Or do you have access to all the relevant information that you need?
Yeah, I definitely understand that. And the second bit then that we led to then is advancing your onboarding with our pre-populator. So using Judo, you can actually build a pre-populator into your onboarding flow. So it means that you can get a client to fill in a very little amount of information and have all the information that you require to onboard them pre-populated at the back end, and also revealed to your client to check in case there's anything you want to flag. So providing that seamless customer experience whereby you get all the information you need with as little as 3 keystrokes for your clients.
And we appreciate not everyone's going to be going down the pre-populator route, because that is made possible by an API. It is something that makes your onboarding a bit slicker, more seamless, and it kicks back all the information that you might need. But at the same time, you're still able to build out a very nice customer onboarding flow if you are using, say, a web platform instead of an API, if that's your kind of chosen method.
Yeah, and the third one then you're going to get is you're going to uncover unseen connections. So we appreciate that, as we mentioned several times, the world is very fast paced now, and you need to understand every aspect of your client's dealings. In order to do that, you're going to need to have all these connections revealed to you rather than spending hours picking together the minute details yourself. So what we've done here is obviously we've provided a platform that allows you to have all these unseen connections surface for you, so you can concentrate on providing your services and onboarding your clients quickly rather than doing the compliance and due diligence needed to satisfy the requirements. And finally then, the last one is to discover the relevant industry keywords to understand the true operating nature of a business. So this not only works so your clients feel as provided for as possible, but it also works for routing leads to the correct sales team, and also just for getting an understanding of what this business does, and then do they fit within the sort of clients you want to work with, and how you could help them, or how you've helped clients since them previously. So in all these ways, we can allow you to build this seamless customer journey where your clients get an amazing experience, but also you yourselves get all the information you need to onboard correctly and start the sales process as efficiently as possible.
And I think on that point, it's very helpful. You mentioned kind of assigning to the right salespeople and assigning, and it also allows you to build out, okay, what is your, really it comes back to kind of the acquisition piece of your total addressable market. Are you actually fulfilling what your goals were, what you developed as your marketing hypothesis of this is our target market? So you can start understanding what that looks like and developing out, those subsectors that you're discovering through these relevant industry keywords to really start reaffirming, okay, this is our position and we have the proof here.
Yeah, and that position and those sort of keywords and the unseen connections that Pam has spoken about there is really come from one source that he's going to explain now, and it allows us to do this.
Yeah, and this is what I was trying not to give away too much of. So the big remedy, what we call our business information graph, it's fantastic. It's our back end. What this allows us to do is we can scale and plug in multiple data set sources, whatever you want to say, very seamlessly, and we're able to grow very rapidly. And so what we're able to do is right now we're working with 27 authoritative data sets. So that's where it comes back to, you might have one solution, but don't limit yourself to one data set. And it's a case of making sure you're covering off all possible options. And what's so great about our big is we're able to plug in these 27 different data sets, and we create a single layer of information. And with all these different data endpoints, and we're able to map out relationships between these individual data points that otherwise you wouldn't be able to map out to, really the naked eye. And we're reading this and understanding these relationships using GraphQL technology, which is the same thing as what Facebook and Google use. I think it's mentioned on the slide here, where Facebook will use this to understand, oh, this is a mutual friend of ours that went to this party. It's the same kind of technology that's understanding all these, and we're using it to build out business relationships. And this allows us to uncover all the different hidden risks that you could potentially be exposed to, like directors and the shareholders and related companies. So this allows you a more uniformed and holistic view of each business. That way you can approach them with a more informed and rational decision-making ability. That way you can implement that in your customer onboarding journey or whatever you might be doing with it.
Yeah, and the best thing about the big is that it really gives Judo the advantage that allows us to do more for our customers. So as Pamela mentioned, we use up to 27 different authoritative data sources, which means that you aren't relying on one data set to onboard customers seamlessly. Yeah. You are relying on every single data point that is available through one single source of truth. The next thing is we also create proprietary data sets.
Yes.
So our great guys here working on industry keywords managed to produce really defined and specific keywords around the true operating nature of a business. So these can be as granular for new industries as financial technology or fintech. One of my personal favorites that always does well is cider makers. I think there's 91 registered in the UK economy right now, which is always exciting. But again, it's that granularity that allows you to really understand the true operating nature of business in seconds, rather than having to do any further due diligence.
And that's, one usage of that I always come to immediately is insurance underwriting teams, where they really need to understand the true nature of a business. Because if you're underwriting a policy, you need to make sure you know exactly what these companies are doing. And quite often these teams will say, well, we don't have enough granularity of a view into these businesses to understand, can we actually underwrite this policy? Is it going to be valid? Are we over-insuring, under-insuring them? So this is a very critical issue for them. And we found through feedback constantly that these keywords are giving them the insight of what they need.
Yeah, definitely. And again, those keywords push into our business information graph that Pam certainly explained in the previous slide. But what that business information graph does in an advantage is that it allows us to really map out those unseen connections and present them back to you. And it allows us to surface all of the entities and the relationships in the UK in a matter of seconds. And again, those unseen connections are a real advantage of Judo. It's not only finding out the relationships between different companies and other companies, directors and directors they're related to, but also those individual features such as possible matches, whereby you can find people who have hidden their identity by slight name changes on a company's house and surface their previous business dealings from there.
Yeah.
Finally, as well, the Judo API is so easy to integrate and is integrated into many seamless onboarding processes currently that you can provide your customers with that first-in-class seamless onboarding experience that allows them to sign up to your product or services in a matter of seconds. And that really does allow you to reduce the time spent onboarding. It does and allows you to access clients who are going to be able to get a hold of your services as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And really, all of these advantages have been something that one of our clients has experienced in quite a large amount, and you're going to talk us through them now.
So I think this is a fantastic use case, not just for Judo to brag around, toot our own horn, whatever the saying is, but just employing new technology. So we're going to look at, it's now it was Simply Asset Finance. They've rebranded, so they're going by Simply. So in the case study, you'll see formerly Simply Asset Finance. But Simply was born by really the Close brothers. So where they were doing alternative lending, funding, the problem was that their former MD, Mike Randall, who moved on to Start Simply, realized that their onboarding process was incredibly slow, incredibly long, and incredibly manual. I mean, those are three things that your drop-off rates get me through the roof. I mean, if you need this alternative lending, you probably need it somewhat quickly. You're not going to want to go through a bunch of paperwork. You're not going to want to go through the back and forth and wait. Okay, we'll mail you your update, or we'll get on the phone and call you at the end of the week. I mean, it's a case of, okay, we need to understand, are we getting this or we're not, because we have to plan. And so obviously Mike and company realized this opportunity. They saw, okay, well, we need to implement change. We need to create a frictionless onboarding journey. So they set out to Start Simply to literally solve this problem. So it was great in the sense that we mentioned earlier, SMEs are gifted with this ability to recognize a problem, because they're, the size and nature of an SME, they can move a bit more quickly or agile or aggressively. Insert any word you want really there. So what they did is they recognized two issues. They knew they needed a good customer experience, and they also had to satisfy regulatory requirements. And how do you do that at the same time is the question, because if we look at Close Brothers, they weren't doing that. They were satisfying regulatory requirements, but they didn't have a good customer experience. So their solution was, let's automate this process, where you mentioned a bit earlier about the pre-populator. Okay, somebody comes to our website, starts filling in the company name, pre-populates it, but on the back side of that, they're getting all the information they need to satisfy these regulatory requirements kicked back to them. Now, as a result, so here we talked about the pre-populator, and then the KYB being a specific set of criteria that you need to satisfy, but it also might include your AML checks, if it's PAPs and sanctions for a director or a business, whatever it might be. And what's great about this is, if we follow the flow here, I don't know if people will see the mouse. So as we're flowing along, it's all coming into one unified system. So if Sean's the customer, the business filling it out, he's seeing one thing, but simply getting all the information they need at the same time from the back end to make the decision. And the end goal of this was two primary purposes. One was to reduce drop-off, which obviously it's an automated experience. You don't have to do a lot of back and forth. And the more important thing is, we talk about the traffic light system here at Judo, where it's red, amber, green. Well, we want to reduce that amber, because that still involves human intervention to take a look at, okay, why didn't they pass the automated onboarding, or the auto rejector approval? So they wanted to get it to a point of increased automation of accepted or rejected, which means less intervention, coming back to that customer experience of, oh, something's gone wrong, can you provide a bit more information? So really trying to cover off everything they possibly need for that seamless customer onboarding experience.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear. And something I would say as well is that before we jump into a demo of the platform, is that the API and using the pre-populator simply obviously came from Close Brothers and our asset finance firm. However, we have packages available to support all sizes of business, to allow them to use the API to build world-class onboarding processes. So if it is something that you are interested in, and something that you want to build that world-class onboarding process from day one, we have packages and discussions that we're able to talk about to allow you to get set up at a price point that works for you.
Yeah, we appreciate not everyone is going to be the Santander and Barclays of the world.
As we jump in now, we're going to jump into a live demo. So I'm just going to share my screen again, and hopefully now you're joined by the Judo web platform. Now, what you will be able to see with the Judo web platform is what the manual search looks like. Now, as Palmer mentioned, is that this will fit into that amber section of the traffic light process. Now, all the information we show is available through the API, so you can have all of this automated. But if you do want to have a manual license as well, so you can log on to the web app to check, or you have one for your compliance or regulatory officer to check themselves to the amber cases, this is what it will look like.
And again, we appreciate not everyone might have the technical abilities or the need to integrate an API in. And if you don't have the technical capabilities, we actually can integrate via Zapier. So it's a low code, no code, making even more possibilities of automating that process. But if it's simply something you just can't do, you still can do your onboarding journey through the platform. It's really a case of saying to your client, we need your company registration number, really, because then we can prove everything else.
And we can see here, we've got the TransferWise popping up straight away, and we can jump in on the TransferWise profile. So straight away, we're getting 6 or 7 sources pulled into the key information page. So in key financials, we can see here the key details around the company, websites, social medias, SIC codes. You can see the difference between a proprietary Judo data set of keywords and the standard SIC code here. Here we've got other financial services activities, which isn't really clear, but actually we've got currency exchange, foreign currency, money transfer here as well, that gives you a granular view of what this company does in an instant. We've got regulation, we've got registered names, imports and exports, and again, we've got a snapshot of financials there as well. However, if you want more in-depth financials to assess the financial validity of any firm you're onboarding, you'll see all of those in the financials tab, conducted with year-on-year growth figures as well. We have got a full list of directors as well. So if you do want to look for directors, all of those directors are available to you. And if you click through to any of these, you're able to see a full profile of that director, their previous and current business dealings, their network, and any possible name matches. We list fully as well all ownership. So you can see here the beneficial owners of the business, the breakdown of shareholders, and we can also find related companies. So these are companies that have some type of relationship to the business in question based on the information that is available. We can, where available as well, map the entire group structure of a business. So we can see here, we've actually got TransferWise in the darkest orange, that's the ultimate parent, and we can see its subsidiary here of TNIV Limited as well. Any documents you need, you can conduct in the Documents tab, and you can use PEPs and sanctions as well, straight from the platform on the business or any directors involved. Finally, for each company as well, we've got a full credit risk profile we do, as well as having long-term liabilities listed for you, so you can understand their current liability position as you onboard them. All of this was a very quick run through of what one company's profile looks like. If you are interested in seeing more and seeing some of the companies that you've worked with previously, then please get in contact with us and we'll be happy to do a more tailored demo to your needs. Is there any questions that have emerged from the demo so far or from the presentation about what we are doing? One question that's emerged is, are you able to do identity verification on the platform? So identity verification isn't something we do. We do allow you to run PEPs and sanctions and understand who directors are, but we don't actually do any IDV through the platform itself. We have integrated with a number of different partners who do that and work through the Judo system to provide that, so it is possible. It's just not something we do internally currently.
And the PEPs and sanctions will also pick up on adverse media as well, if that's something that you need to cover off.
Perfect. One more coming through as well. A classic one. Do you also have contact details? We don't have contact details, I'm afraid. So obviously, someone they're looking for multiple use cases, that's just not something that exists.
No, unfortunately not.
If you are interested in speaking to either me or Pam on a one-to-one basis or having a personalized demo, use any of these details to get in touch with us. So obviously, send us a letter if you want to do that. Call the phone, it will be me and Pam answering, or send us an email to enterprise@judo.com, or follow us on any of the socials for more information. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you at a later date or in a one-to-one consultation.
Thank you for your time.